And it will just be the Xayah Rakan.
Billion miles away.
We knew this was likely, right? It's super safe into the Fury. And, you know, this is a very T1 draft across the board. As Tristana, I'm not sure about that. But this draft can be quite explosive if it can get an early lead and you can start getting the resets.
Because like explosive, and she's got the explosive charge
and the rocket jump.
Yeah,
that's kind of explosive.
That's
as well.
Pretty explosive. I like that. There's also a rumble on the other side, so there's even explosiveness. This was actually one of the picks into Xayah back in the day. You know, people used to pick Tristana into it. Of course, you can, with the draw bead passive, scale a lot of range, and so you can really get out of the way of the feathers later on in the game. Berserker can then become a real threat in late game team fights. And one more time, this is a champion that really needs to make an impact, and he's been failing to do so. See if it works. We dive under the rift. All right, going for a different chroma here. Looks like a chicken dog. As far as the hot dog skin is concerned, I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's a healthier variant.
Yep. As the Matador Alistair, we haven't seen that one in forever. Everyone's just wearing the cowbell skin like every time, and so you just don't really see that. Apart from Beryl being like, I'm going to be the cool guy Alistair.
Yeah.
Which I think Lehens also uses. But I haven't seen Matador for a really long time. That's very, very fun. I think Ona was actually seen on that ward as well. So actually, I really like that Pyongyang, instead of playing back, he just plays towards the Nefiri and says, we'll accept this 2v2 if it does happen. You can see Dudu having to play very carefully here underneath this turret, though. And if they do manage to put him behind early on, this could be an absolute disaster. Ward goes in, spots out Ona immediately. He's not going to be able to clear this one out just yet. Still committing to a potential dive, though.
Yeah, Dudu, of course, needs to stack his Q. Doesn't have any stacks right now.
Oh, man, this could be really problematic. Let's see how he does manage to do this. As Doran actually tanking the turret, has to flash to get out of the way, and Dudu has survived for now. But now it's going to be Ona starting this one off. Can he actually tank this effectively? As the answer is no.
Okay, well, it ended up working out. Flashless or no, the exhaust gets a ton of value, forces Doran to flash. They get the trade here of kills. A kill going over to the Gwen, one going over to the Rumble, but this is not going to be that snowball you were talking about that would have been disaster.
Teleport is on cooldown for him, though, and Doran does still have his. Might give him a little bit of control as
he's hiding in this brush. He does have normal flash here. Faker's pretty far up in the lane.
Oh, level 6 is done here as well for Pyongyang. Does have that for a little while. Faker needs one or
going for it.
There's the shockwave. Just throws it down where he can. Head up hold. In from life as Pyoshik's coming on over. They get the flash out from Ona. Didn't have to use it on that top side of the map. In fact, probably could have perhaps saved his life, as there's a flash out from Pyoshik as well. He's level 5. Another Pulverize comes in as Gumayusi in trouble once again. Explosive charges on in the rocket jump from Berserker, and Gumayusi in so much trouble. There's the battle dance as we've got the flash through from Pyongyang, and Pyoshik takes down Guma. Headbutt to push Carrier back as well. It is going completely ballistic here, and it's DNF that are getting all of the value. Looks like Pyoshik gonna let his former teammates survive.
Playing this early game, though, as DNF to try to get these advantages and snowball the game. They look for the ult onto Faker, push him down. They have that hiding Alistair there. They can challenge Owner. As we'll hold that thought until the replay here, as we are going to have a bit of a contest from Owner. Yep. One grub did, of course, go over to Pyoshik, but he does not stick around to try to smite a second, which I think is wise in this case. Didn't have his flash.
Yeah, able to just get himself over the wall pretty comfortably. I think he did actually have his flash available, but just didn't want to take unnecessary damage. As life is everywhere on this map right now. The needlework coming on in is now Doran. He throws down the equalizer, but it equals nothing, ladies and gentlemen. He's on the floor, and Dudu is now in the lead in the matchup.
Yeah, this is a really big problem here now for the side of T1, as the Rumble's no longer going to be able to try to bully or get big advantages like he was before.
And I also think that DNF are feeling pretty happy with this composition moving later into the game, right? You've got Orianna and Hypercarry, which obviously always feels fantastic. Here's life missing a combo. As sometimes you just want to send a message, ladies and gentlemen, and the message is sometimes it don't work.
Yeah, it's okay. It happens.
Yeah.
Couldn't quite get to the other side of Doran in this case. This pushes him away as Pyongyang is in danger.
Yeah, Empress Divide going to throw him back as he decides to leave stage right. Faker throwing down a bunch of these Zen Soldier autos into him, but the dissonance movement speed is enough to try and get him out of there, and it does attack if you've charged up the Q. So being able to keep the Xin Zhao at bay going to be an important thing here for this Orianna so that he can keep things pushed up. You can see he does have a decent advantage as Life comes over, misses another pulverize, and wanders around. You know, he's trampling the ground a little bit and all that sort of stuff. It's great to see. But that was once again a little bit of an iffy situation. Kyoshi going to be able to take down the Drake though, and it's all fine. Yeah,
they still end up getting the Dragon. That feels really good here for the DN Freaks as Carrier once again coming in here a little low.
It's all about perseverance, ladies and gentlemen, as the quickness comes down. Ona going to get the knock up though. It's Pyongyang splashing away already. Only level 5 onto Life here. Is Shockwave going to connect onto 2? Ona unable to follow up on the kill on the cow. There are some grubs that have spawned though. In the second round, likely to go over to T1 as well.
That extra bit of experience Carrier had over Life was so important there. He has level 6, Life does not. They can't actually force the play the way they want to. Life still doesn't have level 6 here. He's so desperate for it for this upcoming Grubs fight. And he's going to need to get a wave somewhere in order to get it, and he just doesn't have one. So this Alistar without level 6 really hurts their chances. Remember, Carrier doesn't have his ult, though, because he used it in the last exchange. But I think with T1 having Faker here, full control of the entry point of this Grubs, it's going to be really hard to fight this one out as DNF.
Oh, here we go. They did manage to get it. Let's see whether T1 just make out like bandits. Try and take just that one, but instead they're looking for a team fight. Faker with his ultimate back up again. And Gumayushi this time thankfully has Featherstorm. Ona comes in. Dudu on a flank angle. Life gonna have to use that ultimate. Does do so here. As Pyoshik just taking his Raptors, it looks like these grubs aren't something they're interested in right now.
Zerker is getting some plate gold here in the bottom lane, so that's a consolation prize. So keeping T1 interested does pay off in that regard, but otherwise, it felt like a big commitment to kind of showing up to a grubs fight, but not committing there. I think comp is very strong in mid-game T1s, especially with the control they have over set objective here on the blue buff.
All right, Life is just getting on in there as Pyongyang gonna get flashed on by Faker. The Shockwave does connect, and now they do manage to at least go 1-for-1. Or do they? Pyoshik trying to get himself out of there, but that is somehow Carrier surviving. I have no idea how he lived there. The rest of DNF making their way in though as Life once again starting this fight. Over the wall is Carrier finds the knock up there onto Dudu, who now puts down the mist. He's trying to stay alive, but it's not quite working. The needlework! Oh my god, he manages to get one as Ona goes down and Faker is on the floor, and now the rest of T1 are on the wrong side of the fight. Untargetable as Pyoshi's able to take down Carrier, and now Guma with no friends left has nowhere to go.
And they save the turret.
Doran's getting the turret. I don't know whether they're going to be able to save it as he takes a lot of damage from the turret and Pyongyang, as now he's going to try and cook him, and there he goes.
Oh, Pyongyang, no flash in this exchange, can't get away. He thought he had the damage there to take Doran out. He loses the turret, his teleport, and his life all in one fell swoop. It looked like maybe it was kind of a disaster, like he committed TP and still lost the turret and still lost his life.
Do you know what it did, though? It kept everything exactly as it was.
Yeah.
So despite there being that big scuffle, the kerfuffle, DNF being able to win out there, Doran was able to equalize it, grab himself a turret, and first Turret Blood actually went over to T1 as well. Of course, 5 Grubs going to be helping out with that one. That is going to help them on their journey towards feats of strength. As there's the Chemtech Soul once again. I can confirm, Orcs is in the building, but maybe wasn't paying enough attention.
I will say though, I feel like this comp here for DNF loves Chemtech Soul. Like
honestly, with the Gwen and stuff, I'm kind of there with you.
Like the healing for Gwen is cool. It's whatever.
Shield power for an Orianna comp.
I'm not talking about the individual dragon that they're getting on third potentially to get that soul, but the soul itself is actually super powerful for Gwen that's going to get low and be in that big brawl and is going to be able to get some of that healing back. Is just going to do a ton of damage. Same with the Tristana, who's just looking for a reset into a reset into a reset. For T1. Between these two, as the lead has started to fall away a little bit, and with this attempt on the turret, might be T1 pulling in the lead if they can secure it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be getting it off this one. Minions have ran away, and then the Rift Arrow will be taken down swiftly with the help of Pyoshik. So T1 just getting a charge, trying to get some damage. They really do want to be able to break that one open as soon as possible. It's a composition that doesn't siege very well, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a lot of range. You really want to be fighting around objectives, so it's about setting up for exactly that. And speaking of setup,
They will.
That's what they're doing here to Dudu, as over the wall goes Ona, and they look to just take down the turret immediately. The knockup does connect, and now Dudu's going to try and get in there. I don't know about that one, as Doran's already flashed away. Huge pulverize as the Gwen does go down, but the equalizer positioned pretty well. Buster shot gets Carrier out of there with his life, and the Featherstorm will eviscerate the Tristana. This is the kind of team fighting we wanted to see out of T1.
This is exactly what you were talking about in terms of this, as Doran gets 3,000 finally. Was waiting for a while for this one.
Man, we've been talking about that for weeks.
Yeah, but with the... As, Guma has his IE already, so that's feeling really nice here for the Xayah.
Yeah, and you could imagine that Berserker would be pretty close as far as what his coffers are looking like. T1 going to utilize that reset advantage to be able to take down this Dragon. DNF not really up with the timing on that one, and with the state of the game, it makes sense. This is something that DNF are going to have to forego. So the first Chemtech Drake going to go over to T1. Be making their Ruinous a little bit better.
And they had enough info about where DNF were that they knew that this wasn't going to be an attempt.
And this is, like, actually goes on with what you were talking about earlier on, and that is, we've got Ona on Xinzao, Faker on Azir, and Carrier on Rakan. Like, this is T1's bread and butter with their best performing players at the moment on exactly what they want to be playing. We're starting to see that DNF not really able to do much about it. His life is just going to get cooked, ladies and gentlemen. He could even just be dead right now. As Carrier goes in and Faker's able to pick that one up, but they also get Berserker as well. Just sweeps them up underneath the turret. Pungyeon gets in. It's another unfortunate teleport for this Orianna, as they just have to watch as their turret gets vaporized. And T1, I don't think they're going to give back any control of this game to DNF.
I don't think so either. And, I mean, they have in his ear, is not quite on 2 items, but still, he has Nashers first, and he will be able to rip through this Otacon pretty quickly if they do decide to commit to it. Doran does have his teleport, so could join if things get dicier. He's also tracking Pyoshik right now, so I know Pyoshik's not going to come over here and look for a smite, but he may look for a kill.
Yeah, he does throw his doggos forward.
But Doran is like, my flash for Otacon, you know, we know Pyoshik's not nearby. You guys can press your D key on that one and take it out.
Yep, we take those. Probably what he's going to be saying as Carrier moves down towards his bottom side. I don't think he's going to be saving this turret as Dudu's able to lock that one down. Pyoshik in position.
Try to force an issue.
See whether DNF can actually secure their red buff. That's going to be an important thing. As Life goes in, gets a pulverize, but I don't know about this one. Berserker trying to get these autos off, and they're not actually able to get onto him, as Pyoshik as well, pretty happy that he can get untargetable, but he's flashing away, was lit on fire in that tiny amount of time that Carrier had available.
Guma doesn't even have to ult in this situation, and they're like, all right, well, that's it, that's Baron.
Wait, he wasn't even lit on fire, because there's a heal on this Rakan. That's just the burn.
Yep, it's just that.
That is insane.
But, I mean, that was, again, with the lack of coordination here for DNF, they're going to go for one more Hail Mary. Okay, They decide not to because their jungler is nowhere near, and I think this is wise.
But I mean, you can't just give everything, because then you just lose the game. Equalizer goes down, and it's T1 that are engaging. The Shockwave lands on absolutely nothing, and Dudu is now in trouble. The Gwen not feeling as powerful as she once was, and will be taken out there by Ona. And it's fight after fight after fight. T1 on top every single time. And the early game feels like it's so far away, Wolf.
It's even just these skirmishes where T1 get a big enough lead that they could just force the issue further. That is so overwhelming, it seems like, for DNF. They just cannot deal with it. They're not able to even play the Vision juggle game. They're not able to play the red buff juggle game without catastrophic results. And Faker can solo the Chemtech Dragon, which he will do here with no consequences. And, I mean, T1 have the whole map. They have Baron, and what once was a small gold deficit, is pushing to look for some inhibitors here.
Yeah, and still a minute and a half left on this Baron. The Rebel Baron power play only going to increase from here as a bit of a zoning equalizer just to soften them up and convince them that this inner turret is not worth fighting for. And understandably, DNF will agree with them. Does mean that now there isn't a equalizer for the next little bit of sieging, but we'll see whether T1 just try and force anyway, because Ona is so incredibly scary. Does find the wind becomes lightning onto Pungyeon.
Pungyeon has his ult, but he's level 14. Faker is level 17, so I don't think they're that concerned about it.
No. And it hasn't really been hitting the right targets recently anyway, as inhibitor number 1 to go down, the second one short to follow. And DNF, I mean, They didn't look like they had much of an idea in the first few fights. I don't know whether much has changed now as Pioshik deciding to dive forward. Does get the stopwatch out of Doran here. Does break his arm guard, but he's very close to his Onyas, so doesn't need to worry about that one too much.
And Pioshik, doesn't have his ult anymore either, which obviously when you compare the two, like the arm guard is more valuable in the long term, but I just don't know if there is any long term. And now T1 know that they're just like, okay, well, we can keep pushing, and there's no way Pioshik can get on top of somebody. Like even Guma's like, let me auto this Orianna. I don't care. I have flash ult, and you don't have a Fury ult.
Yeah, and Faker and Carrier are just looking for their opportunity to scoop someone up. Carrier to get them in position, and then Faker just to finish it off as the equalizer goes down. Life goes in. There's a shockwave connecting onto two, but I think it's too little, and it's almost definitely too late. As Ona going forward, tanking up two turrets, as Life does get the pulverize onto Guma, who will eventually go down. That was actually an absolutely sick play. They trade 1 for 1. DNF's base are in shambles.
They saved the top inhibitor.
Basically a non-factor at this stage. There's no team with Soul Point yet, and it's an 8,000 gold lead approximately for T1.
Everybody's doing their job here on T1. Baker's had a pretty good game. He's been able to shut down a lot of the engages. Carrier.
All right, Life going in. Carrier is just going to say okay. And Ona not going to be able to steal away the red buff. So Pioshik does at least get that prize for his team. Dudu also with Azonya's now completed. That is kind of cool. As Faker goes in, finds Pungyan one more time, and I just don't think he has any way out. In fact, he does not. As Faker goes golden, and the red carpet is there. Life unable to walk down that one. That's a little too hot. Gets cooked anyway by Doran here. As now Ona goes in with a nice knock up onto Dudu. He has the miss down, but I still just don't think he's going to be immune. And there it goes. Pioshik on the fountain. The Sand Soldiers say you are dead. And T1 will dominate in the end of game number 1. The DN Freaks woes continue here in the LCK.
And a big statement win here from T1, bouncing back after